Some of you love it, and some of you hate it. But today we have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is Crystal Tech in Rise of Kingdoms. Join me for a video you're not going to want to miss. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Rise of Kingdoms video from your very own Shappy Gaming. If you guys are new to the channel, my name's Shappy. I'm a sponsored Rise of Kingdoms content creator, creating guide content for you to help you become a better Rise of Kingdoms player. However, today we are talking about Crystal Tech in Rise of Kingdoms. If you're a new player, aka KVKs 1 through 3, consider yourself lucky because you don't have to worry about this yet. But stick around because there may be some insightful tidbits you probably want to be aware of as you watch this video. So first things first, if you guys are familiar with Crystal Tech and Rise of Kingdoms, it's primarily used for going ahead and just investing in Crystal Tech. Crystal Tech gives you all sorts of different buffs that you can use in combat, etc. Now, what's interesting with Crystal Tech is it can give you some pretty insane bonuses when we talk about attack, defense, etc., all damage dealt, all that good stuff. And if you're in a Season of Conquest KVK, every single Season of Conquest KVK has Crystal Tech. But one of the questions that I've gotten a lot is, Shappy, do you think Crystal Tech is fair? And the challenge with that question is, fair for who? Because if you're saying, is Crystal Tech fair? I think for mid-spenders or whales, sure, right? It adds an extra element to the game. It makes it so there's some interesting combat bonuses that you only get in KVK. But if you're a free-to-play or a low spender, is Crystal Tech fair? I don't think so. And today we're going to walk through why it's not. I have all sorts of different examples that I want to show you guys because I think no one has really looked at how exactly unfair this is, and I think we need to. So let's start by talking about how you get crystals. Well, if you're in Rise of Kingdoms and you're just starting out and you're going through KVK, you can get crystals after a successful KVK from these crystal chests. You can just start KVK with, for me, this is about 3.3 million crystals. And this was after a very successful KVK previously. Let's assume you totally screw up your first KVK and you got all these, but you didn't spend any money, you did nothing. But let's just say you're me, you're Shappy, you're going into this next KVK and you have these chests. This means that you really get to start with about 3.3 million crystals. That sounds like a lot, right? Wrong. 3.3 million crystals is not very much. Now, there are other ways you can get crystals too. If we pop back over to the simulator here, you can actually see that you can get crystals from killing barbarians. When you kill barbarians, you get more crystals earned. You can also get crystals from Karaku if you go through the trial of Karuak. And don't worry, guys, I have gone through and I've done a breakdown of all the different rewards that you get from Trial of Karuak, because this is really important when we start to think about how you can get crystals in Rise of Kingdoms. Now, there are 3 different personas in this game. Low spender, free to play, mid spender, and whale. I stand corrected. We really got about 4. Sorry. So, how do all of them differ? Well, starting with the kind of like low spender, let's look at what you can get. If you're a low spender, you might start KVK and say, hey, you know what? I'm probably just going to buy the $5 season crystal supply. That'll give me the 50% crystal mine work speed. For reference, for anyone who's kind of wondering, like, why does that matter? How does that come into play in the grand scheme of things? Well, I'm so glad you asked because I checked with Ruz, shout out to Ruz, and he shared with me that if you are entering Kingsland, typically your mine speed is going to be at around 181.5. That's just an arbitrary percentage that applies to your mine speed. Mine speed is probably the #1 way to get crystals organically. So if you don't buy this, then the maximum that I would expect you could really get to from a mine speed standpoint is going to be 131%, which in the grand scheme of things is pretty substantial. We're talking about like maybe a 1/3 piece of this pie. So you do really want to buy this if you're a low spender. You probably have to. Also, you get 60,000 crystals per day. Now, 60,000 crystals per day is really nothing when we look at it in the grand scheme of things, but it's $5. So if you're a low spender, you're buying that. And maybe you're also buying Lucerne, right? Or the Crystal Quest. And if you're buying Crystal Quest, that amounts to a grand total of 5.7 million crystals over the course of all 50 tiers. Realistically, you're not getting all that right away. Maybe in the first week you're getting that, 510,000, but you're really not getting more than that. So sure, in the grand scheme of things, you're getting approximately 8 million crystals. But that doesn't scale particularly well. And let's take a look at what I mean by that. Well, if I go back to the simulator here, and we go and we take a look at save state number 3, we've spent 3 million crystals. This is what the average person starts KVK with just without spending a single dollar. Your Crystal Research Center is level 23. That's it. You can't do anything else. You have to choose between maxing your Crystal Center or going ahead and actually investing in your technology, which is absolutely crazy to even begin thinking about. So that's a little nuts, right? If you're starting and you're spending no money at all, you really can't go anywhere. But let's say that you do get, maybe you get a little bit more, right? And you're saying, hey, I got that, spent the $5, my research speed is up. So, okay, you can go maybe do that. Maybe do a couple of these. But realistically, you're not getting very far. And this is on day 1 as soon as KVK opens. Really important to keep that in mind. Over time, if you're a free-to-play or you're a low spender, you can hunt barbarians, and you will have to use a lot of your AP in order to try and compensate. But that's a lot of effort, and realistically, to get this amount of crystals, it's non-trivial. It's a lot of time. It is probably multiple hours every single day that you would spend barbing, and you'd probably run out of AP before you could even compare. But let's go back to this because I want to make sure we take a look at the truth here. If you're a mid-spender, what you're probably doing is actually buying the pop-ups. That's this bundle right here. And you're buying the premium crystal supply. And you're coming in with those 3.3 million. On day 1. Because you can get all of these on day 1. $109. That's just one bundle. And Lilith makes that. And remember, you don't get to keep your tech. But that's on day 1. So that gives you between the 3.3 million and all of these bundles and the crystal supply around 17.26 million. But what does that actually mean? What does that translate to? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Let's go back over here. Let's load this state. So you saw how far you got with the low spender and free-to-play approach. But if you're a mid-spender and you want to spend that $109, here's where you end up. You can get your tech pretty much all the way up here. And if you're running a single unit type, you can get the single war unit to 7. And then you can also get the secondary unit tech to 5. Now, if you wanted to, you can distribute these differently. You don't have to get this one to 7. You could probably get these 3 to 3 or however you choose. I have my own kind of crystal guide that I follow. Personally, it's worked really well for me, and you can see I saved a lot of crystals here, but if you guys want that, join the Discord. I'll share it with you. But this is where you can end up on day 1. That's on day 1. Already, you have bonuses that are going to scale and come into play almost immediately. Because not only are you benefiting by the fact that you got all the way to this tier, but you also have your plunder level up. So your plunder is now giving you an extra 5% of crystals earned from every barbarian you kill. But you also have this plunder leveled up, which is also giving you, this is level 4, another 4%. So now you're getting 9% more crystals. You have your Karaku gift at a higher level, so you're getting more benefits from that. And most importantly, Your treaties and cultural exchange are probably about as far up as you're going to get them. And one of the main crystal inputs that you get is actually by going ahead and doing bastion quests. And the more bastion quests you do, the more crystals you get through these, as well as the more favor. Favor matters because favor contributes to how fast your crystal mine levels up. Every KVK has these bastions which come into play and drive your crystal mine speed. So what you're seeing is, on the first day of KVK, there is already an extreme disproportionate balance between free-to-play and low spenders versus mid-spenders and whales, right? Because mid-spenders and whales are going to do this. But it gets worse. Let's go back over here, right? We're talking about mid-spenders and whales and how all that works. Well, a mid-spender stops here. I'm a mid-spender. This is what I do. I buy this bundle, I buy that, and I buy Lucerne. Again, we saw Lucerne over here. This equates to around 5.7. Yes, Crystal Quest, Lucerne, same difference. Well, a whale will also buy Conqueror's Will. And they will buy it every single day. And what that means is you're spending, I don't know, around $35 a day and getting 1 million crystals. Well, let's say Pass 4 opens, I don't know, within a week. I don't have the dates memorized off the top of my head right now, but let's say it's about a week. If it's about a week, that's an extra 7 million crystals that you can get. To put that into perspective, let's go back to our simulator here. An extra 7 million crystals is approximately a third more. So as you go from mid-spender to whale, there's also a pretty big jump. And that becomes especially apparent when we take a look at Mountain Warfare. You will have whales purchase Mountain Warfare fully before every pass. And so even before you're in Zone 5, whales have a significant advantage when we take a look at their tech. Because you now have 7 days approximately of Conqueror's Will that you purchased, so 7 million. And then you have an extra 9 million from Mountain Warfare. So that's an extra 16 million. To put that into perspective, we only spent 17 million to get to this point. So going ahead and spending all of that money does give you a remarkably unfair advantage. And you may say, hey, Shappy, what are you talking about here? Well, it costs 106 million crystals to max technology fully. But what we're talking about here is you're already 1/3 of the way done. Because remember, you got 16 million from Mountain Warfare. You bought Conqueror's Will every day. That's 7 days. And you got all these out the gate because you bought all the pop-ups. So you're almost 1/3 of the way there. And remember, when you're in the crystal tech, a lot of these later ones aren't really mandatory right away, right? Expanded formations is super expensive. That's 5 million right there. This expanded formation is also super expensive. And then are you going to max special medicines? Maybe not. Are you going to max special medicines too? Maybe not. You don't necessarily need to. The thing you really care about is maxing improved morale. So you get into a really interesting situation here where even before Pass 5, things are kind of unfair. But let's also take a look here at how Karuak comes in, because Karuak is really interesting. When you go through, when you fight Karuak, you do get some benefits here. You get like 500 crystals an hour. It's really not anything of substance, as we just talked about in terms of the volume that you need. But if Lilith wanted to fix this, they have a couple options. In total from Karuak, you get about 10 million crystals. Not that much. But the biggest problem with Karuak as of today is you actually, I believe, only get these 2 tiers before Kingsland. These 3 tiers come after Kingsland. And those 3 tiers actually give you more crystals than I think anything else. In the first 2 tiers, you're only really getting about 3 million crystals. So if Lilith wanted to make lives easier, they would A, increase the volume that you get from this, from 500 an hour to, I don't know, 1,000, 1,500, something like that. And they would increase the output that you get from these, or the availability of these, to make it so you can see them earlier before you get to Kingsland as a low spender or free to play. But realistically, I think the best solution Lilith can take is actually creating a KVK without crystal tech. But the problem is, as you saw here, for every mid spender, they're making hundreds of dollars. And so they're not incentivized to actually do it. So what should we do? Well, I'm going to create a submission on the Rise of Kingdoms Discord for Lilith to create a Crystal Tech free KVK that you can register for every so often. Let's say 1 out of every 3 KVKs you can have be the Crystal Tech free one. And that way, if you are a low spender or free to play, you're not forced to spend right away. The other thing that I'd like to see them add is the ability for you to actually start getting some of these crystals before you even come into KVK. Because if they do that, then yes, it costs 100 million crystals to max KVK tech. But what if they made it so simply by playing the game, you could come into KVK with an extra 5 million crystals as a free to play? That's not that much, right? We just saw you come in with 3.3 today. But if you could come in with an extra 5 million, you can finish your crystal mine and actually get to a point where you can go ahead, and if we go back to our simulator here, you can go ahead, you can max this out, because again, now we're talking about coming in with about 8 million. You can go through here, get all these up, great, get this up, max this out. So skillful operation is gonna be all good here, there you go. Swift marching level 3, perfect, that's up. Bam. Okay. 5 million there. Remember, we have up until 8. And let's see if we can actually get to the next tier. I don't know that we can with this, but we'll see. And we're going to go over here. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Can't do that yet. Swift marching 2 to level 3. Okay, so now we got to max all these out. Ooh, we're close. Okay, so if you came in with 8, you're significantly closer to being competitive because you can get Skillful Operation 2 unlocked, and then you can take that up to level 6 within the first 2 to 3 days. So even if you did that, that would be helpful. But let me know in the comment section below, what do you guys think of Crystal Tech? What do you think of my ideas? Do you have ideas? I want to hear from you. And if you've enjoyed this video and you enjoy this type of content, hit that subscribe button right over there, bottom right-hand corner, and hit the bell so you get notified when new episodes come out. Thank you all. Shappy out.